So Republicans in Florida are showing their whole buttocks lately.
They're showing whole. They posted whole.
Not that kind of whole.
Oh, okay.
But they're showing their whole ass because as the state tries to recover from Hurricane Ian, which has been the footage is insane. It is terrifying. And yes, the part of me that secretly wants Florida to politically slip into the Atlantic,
metaphorically and politically,
metaphorically just go bye-bye, is happy. But of course, there's great people in Florida and a lot of pets who need help. And I stand all the pets that survive hurricanes and all the ones that don't, RIP, and all the people. But I digress. The point is that Republicans are showing that they love hurricane relief when it happens, and it's for them. And it's for their red state, but they fucking hate it if you live in a blue state, and they will absolutely wield it strategically and politically against you. And case in point, you've got Marco Rubio, who voted against Hurricane Sandy relief and back in, 2014. And here he is talking about being asked about that directly by Dana Bash of CNN, and he is completely evading the question, and she's bringing some receipts.
Senator, you wrote a letter Friday to the Senate Appropriations Committee asking for disaster relief dollars for desperately needed resources to rebuild Florida communities. After Hurricane Sandy hit northeastern states in 2012, you voted no on a $50 billion relief package. I know you supported a smaller version, but why should other senators vote for relief for your state when you didn't vote for a package to help theirs?
Oh, I've always voted for hurricane and disaster relief. I've even voted for it without pay-fors. What I didn't vote for in Sandy is because they had included things like a roof for a museum in Washington, D.C., for fisheries in Alaska. It had been loaded up with a bunch of things that had nothing to do with disaster relief. And I wouldn't support disaster relief efforts. I would never put out there that we should go use a disaster relief package for Florida as a way to pay for all kinds of other things people want around the country. So I think that's the key in moments like this. And Sandy, unfortunately, they loaded it up. They really did, with a bunch of things that had nothing to do with Sandy. But I voted for every disaster relief package, especially that's clean, and I'll continue to do so. When it comes to Florida, I'll do that again, and we'll make sure that that package is clean and doesn't have stuff for other people in there.
I read the Congressional Research Service report last night. It sounds like that roof actually was damaged by the hurricane, and what happened in Alaska was the result of another disaster. But in any event...
Oh, I stayed up kind of late and I read the congressional report in preparation for this interview because I do my job.
And it seems like you're lying.
And you just voted against it. There's no pork in here. You voted against it because you wanted to stick it to Obama at the time and New York and blue states at the time, Connecticut and other places. And it's very, very true that is legitimately what happened. So there's that is that. And I want to just go over the amount of hypocrisy that is happening, and then we'll go into what Senator Rick Scott, other senator from Florida, is talking about. But in terms of this hypocrisy, apparently, this is from the Daily Beast, there's a group called the Republican Study Committee. And they're the largest internal GOP conference group. 156 lawmakers, second and third ranking members of Kevin McCarthy's team, Scalise, Elise Stefanik of New York. And part of their plank is to basically, essentially say, we want to limit hurricane relief, less hurricane relief generally. And so if they were to actually continue to stick with that position in their document, it would run contrary to what DeSantis right now, Governor DeSantis, is calling for, and what Marco Rubio is calling for. Again, the two of them writing this letter to Congress asking for emergency funding. On Wednesday, DeSantis' administration asked President Joe Biden to allow the Federal Emergency Management Agency to cover 100% of emergency protective measures for the first 60 days after the hurricane's landfall. But then the actual, this body's position is that there should not be 100% covered. It should be less than that. And so if they were to actually follow through, they call for equalizing the cost sharing for disasters. In other words, states should pay just as much as the federal government. But of course, they're not going to follow through with that piece of they don't know. They don't believe in that now that it's them who are on the chopping block, right? And recently, before they left for recess in October, lawmakers passed a stopgap bill to fund the government until December. You guys remember this? Included in that continuing resolution was $18 billion for a special fund under FEMA that Florida authorities could potentially begin accessing immediately to speed recovery efforts. However, this was in October. This was before they left for the October recess. Despite the stopgap spending bill's potential to help assist hurricane relief efforts, all 16 GOP members of Florida's congressional delegation voted it down, joining all but 10 GOP lawmakers in doing the same for a bill to keep the government running for 11 weeks. This was a bill, it had Ukraine funding in it. That might have had something to do with it. But 16 members, their entire delegation said no. Yeah. And now they're like, oh, we really need that money because all of these coastal towns have been affected. They're like,
hey, remember how we didn't say no backsies? So we are calling backsies.
Yeah.
Because there was not a explicit no backsies policy in the bill. All right. So backsies, give us the money.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.